What's up? My name is Grimson, and this is my first PoE guide I've ever made. Um, just wanted to kind of look at what's possible with the changes to the caster buffs in 3.29 Curse of the Allflame. And I've been trying to make a caster build that would fit some of those changes. And randomly, I decided to roll a wheel, picked Incinerate of Venting, and I went and looked for some guides. There's been some guides in the past done by Connor, Ignatius, another guy named Vide, and they're all a couple weeks old at this point. A lot of them are using Energy Blade and stacking Energy Shield, which obviously over the last couple of patches has been nerfed. So I went out to kind of do a different version of that with scaling up gem levels and quality. Obviously, as you know, in 3.29, they're going to be giving you 10% free quality on your gear as long as you match the colors. So that's going to be a free 10% we never had before. And they're also making some changes to the way that staves work. The modifiers they can roll are higher. The number of plus gems you can get on them are higher. So decided to go ahead and put together this guide. I wasn't gonna, I was just gonna use it for myself and not post it, but I haven't seen any updated guides for 3.29 as far as Incinerate of Venting goes. So I figured I'd show what I'm kind of working with. Everything's not perfect. I will say, as a newer player, this is not a new player friendly guide. You're not going to get handheld through the leveling, purely just kind of do what you want for the leveling. Um, and then the end game I haven't fleshed out because a lot of the stuff is in flux. It depends on gems and changes that we can't really 100% test right now. So this is mostly what I would expect to get to in like a day 2, 3, 4 um, scenario on League launch. Just some basic items, nothing too crazy, and I just wanted to present that. So, um, I will say that I've messed around with some builds before. I've built a couple, but in the past, often whatever I was planning on playing, whether it be, uh, you know, retaliation skills, Frostblink, etc. All those things had major content creators put out guides for them, so I didn't. I will say, as a fair warning again, I'm not a seasoned creator, and I've just created this based off of the data in the patch notes. There may be things that are different when it comes to actually playing in the league. I will be trying to post an update when I get to a more end game week 2, week 1 kind of setup, but no promises. Again, I just want to make it super clear that this is not a beginner friendly guide. All that saying, let's get into the build. So, what's this kind of look like, right? Well, what we're going to be doing is when it comes to bossing, we're doing Incinerate of Venting. You go to the boss, you channel, big channel. Because of the quality, this is 30 quality because of that 10% I was talking about. So there's a 20% jewel, 10% on top of it. And then on top of that, we're using an ashes. So we're getting 60%, which means we have 24 stages of venting. So it takes about 3 or so seconds to build up to that. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to a boss, you're going to build that up, and then as soon as you're hitting 24 stacks, that's when you're doing this 15 million DPS. And that is like day 2, 3 gear, very unoptimized, right? And that's just going to melt any boss pretty much. Now, obviously, you have to try to avoid whatever's going on. You'll see it later. I'll do some showcases I'm not the best bosser. Uh, until we have like all the block stuff and all the energy shield things and all these, all these 3.9 changes in, it's going to be hard to simulate that. Like the block chance thing is really painful for simulating. Like you'll see, I'm doing these things, but I'm doing them at like 35% block chance because right now there's no support for block on staffs. When we go into 3.29, we're going to have this mana infused staff that's a bunch of block. And then B, you're actually going to be able to roll block nodes onto staves. So you should be able to get something like 20% block chance on your staff. Another thing, while we're on the staff here, you might say, well, +2 all, +3 fire, that's kind of crazy. Well, actually, no. It's getting changed in the next patch where that +3 fire is going to be really easy. Well, more easy theoretically to get because they're going to be adding a +4. So, yeah, I mean, maybe +2, +2, +1, +3 is a little bit more reasonable, but I honestly think getting something like this staff isn't going to be too hard to get outside of it being a battery staff, which we'll talk about that as well. So when it comes to the build, first off, let's talk about leveling. So as I said, I didn't include in here anything for leveling. The only things I put in here is some notes about what you could plan to do. As far as I'm concerned, you want to do anything that's brand or fire skill. And the one that fits really well into that is Armageddon Brand, which you can get in Act 3 and use at a level 28. The reason I say that is Armageddon Brand's a pretty tried and true leveling skill. The other reason is in the tree, you can see where we're kind of pathing here. A lot of the area we're pathing is passing through areas with fire nodes in them. Here you have another one. And over here is the big brand node that gives you an additional brand attached to an enemy. So if you're going through and basically following where this tree goes, it's pretty easy to hit some fire nodes, hit some brand nodes. Bada bing, bada boom. Armageddon uses fire. It's a brand. Great. So I would say, as far as where I would start this build, I would go up here, just as we're doing here, except I would divert over to here and get the brand node. And then, since we're using a staff, and that's a key portion of the build, I would say from there you would just go and do your 2 points down to here, cross over, get a free gem, come down here, and then you go into this big staff node here, which gives you a bunch of crit chance and crit multi and all that kind of fun stuff. Power charges on block, and that'll give you a little bit of block as well. I think probably you'd get if you have a typical staff, you'll probably get like, I don't know, maybe 40% block in the campaign, something like that, which will help with some damage mitigation. Um, and then from there, I would probably come back, grab these fire nodes, maybe take the trip up here, grab these fire nodes, grab this kind of stuff in here for some more crits, some more staff stuff, some more staff block, spell damage, mana res. You can grab the mana res node over here. That'll allow you to get D-term and Zealotry and fit that in a lot better with a little extra mana to float around. And then that would probably be the game plan for early campaign. After that, obviously, pretty much follow the tree. I would say the one thing I would watch out for is do not convert to Chaos Inoculation early. I would say this is something I would plan to switch into come end of white maps, beginning of yellow maps, maybe end of yellow maps, just because you really want to have a pretty solid energy pool. getting that chaos damage immunity is really strong. It's the most strong defense in the game, if you ask me. Um, but you do have a real struggle of getting energy shield nowadays. But yeah, that's basically the leveling plan. So now let's talk about kind of the late game and what we're kind of doing here with the tree, where the plan is. So first of all, we're hitting all of the power charge nodes. That's to get some free critical strike. That's to get some free crit um, from some free damage. As you can see up here, we're taking the discipline of the forbidden node, which gives you min power charges, but it also gives you a chance to get a charge on kill and also 8% damage per power charge. And then down here, because we want to take this block mastery for our staff and we get the spell damage, we're also going to take this caster mastery for gaining a power charge each second while channeling a spell. This is going to mean that we have 100% uptime on power charges for when we're channeling whatever channeling spell we're using. Most of the time, that's going to be Incinerate of Venting. There is some other niche things that we do in the build here to do mapping, to do delve, to do different content that is a little bit less friendly to sitting and doing your Incinerate of Venting. That being said, I think that incinerator venting is a really solid skill. If you have Frostblink, you can just kind of Frostblink around the map and vent the whole map. It's a little slow. If you like faster builds, I'd say that this build isn't super fast at clearing maps. The big part that it shines at is killing those bosses and channeling on like a boss for 3 seconds and suddenly you just nuke third of his health bar. That's the great part of it, right? And then as you scale it more and more, you get to the point where you're basically just channeling and the boss dies. So some early game considerations. So we need to get these mana reservations here so that we can fit in our auras. The auras that we're using are Zealotry, Determination, and this is not going to be Tempest Shield. It's going to instead be the um, Mana Infused Staff. I have that cooked in here on the custom modifiers. But basically, we're using Tempest Shield to simulate the 30% mana res right now. This is basically going to work like Tempest Shield. It's going to give us block, but it's also going to give us block to attack and spell damage, whereas Tempest Shield is just spell damage. But in order to fit these three nodes, now you see I have an enlightened here. If I drop that out, we're not under, we're still just, this is just from the tree reservation. But the problem is, right, you're talking we have 160 unreserved mana. It's just a little low when it comes to casting Frostblink, Molten Shield when we get hit. Um, you know, being able to run around maps using Armageddon brand, which we'll talk about in a second. So ideally, you want to get an enlightened early-ish. I would just say level 1 if you find one, or you can like day 3 or 4 buy one, but it really just helps with how it feels. Another thing that really helps, and this is actually an easy early game, is getting Anointing Soul Siphon. Um, it's just 2 ambers and a violet, which isn't too expensive. And that gives you a bunch of mana, but then also gives you mana per kill, which will help a lot with clearing and being able to, Frostblink through maps, throw down your Armageddon brands, etc. Um, Pretty much there's a bunch of crit nodes in the tree. Over here, this crit chance, you know, as you scale your strength and int, this crit chance becomes a lot less important. Uh, we're using the Inquisitor. So we have the node here, which is Righteous Providence. And this is kind of what we're scaling to get our crit chance up. We're just scaling int and strength. And as long as lower of the two is very close, we're going to get a large amount of crit chance from this. So over time, sources of crit chance in here are going to drop off. Like, for example, right now in this build, I have a diamond flask. Do we need the diamond flask? Not really. We're at 95% with this basic ass gear. But we want to hit that 100%, so we have the diamond flask here, right? Then let's say you get a little bit more strength and you can drop the diamond flask. You can, or alternatively, you can drop some points here in this crit chance node, and that'll just make it feel a lot better. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. Is the tree in the, ascendancy here. We have this that makes it so we crits ignore elemental resist. So running flammability, running any kind of pens elemental, any elemental resistance reduction, it's pointless. You don't need any of it. So we don't have any of it in the tree, and you don't have to invest in any of it. As far as crit chance, as I was saying before, you get this node, gets a lot of free crit chance. You just have to stack strengthen in. Here, we're doing extra elemental damage. It's not the best node. I'm not 100% sure I would sit on this node. Some other people have used Instruments of Virtue, but I'm also like not crazy about Instruments of Virtue. I'm not crazy about that. So, and this is more damage. And then obviously we're taking the consecrate node because we're going to be stationary, channeling stationary. If you don't know, you can frostblink while channeling, while stationary, and both of those conditions will remain. You'll stay stationary, you'll stay channeling. So we're always going to be on consecrated ground. We're always going to be channeling. We're always going to be stationary, except if you got to dodge some shaper slam or something, right? Something doesn't work out, or if you're in a map and you're clearing and you're running in between a couple packs because you don't have a perfect frost blink between them. Otherwise, tree, we're just taking energy shield nodes, some stuff, get extra energy shield. We're running an armor energy shield base, so you can see we have pretty good armor. Our effective EHP is actually pretty good. It's not as amazing as some of the builds I've played recently, but it's pretty good. I mean, Chaos Immune is always great. 39k or so on your reses is pretty good. Obviously, we can cook this up to like an 80% if you want to run each of the flasks, a topaz, etc. Probably bump this to like 42,000. The fizz is pretty good, 17,000. It's a lot of the armor there helping us out. And eventually you can kind of get endurance charges into the build, I think. I believe there should be a way that we can get endurance charges. I just have to have a think on it, and it'll probably be in my update after my week 1, week 2 build. Arcane Surge is another thing we're kind of heavily vested into. It gives us a big caster buff. Casting speed increases channeling speed. Therefore, we're channeling up to our max level quicker. And mana regen is good for all our skills we're using mana on. We have a big int pool, so like we have a lot of mana. That's all good. Yeah, that's pretty much everything going on in the tree here. The one other thing I'll say, this Watcher's Eye, where is it? Oh, did I move it? There it is. This Watcher's Eye, it's kind of whatever. I think we want to have a Watcher's Eye in the build. I don't think it really matters what we get on it. Like, I wouldn't take the crit chance one for Zealotry because I don't think it works with spells. But I would probably take the one with determination. I think there's another determination one that does like percent damage for fizz. That's a good one, but it's a little bit more expensive. I just know that this armor Wall Determination is cheap, and the damage while Consecrated Ground is cheap. That's an easy go-to. I mean, we're always gonna have Consecrated Ground near us, so like, you know, mostly we're just kind of doing this for the 6% energy shield and then the couple of bonuses, whatever we can get, really. Just get a, early Watcher's Eye with something that's pretty cheap. And later on, considering you could get like a 3 mod, and I think it won't even be that expensive. The other thing we're doing is we have this Militant Faith. The main reason we're doing this is for the more spell power per power charge. Um, and we're basically generating 6 power charges all the time, so this is more power charge stacking stuff. Again, corruptions now can give +1 power charges, so later on we're gonna wanna corrupt maybe, something like ashes into a power charge. Maybe we just, corrupt some of our rare gear to have +1 power charge on it. Have to see what you can do, but that's the idea there. And then all of these nodes will give devotion. And the thing we're getting off that devotion on this Militant Faith is elemental damage and non curse aura effect. It's, you don't have to get anything perfect here either. Like, I think if you go, I think percent elemental damage is probably the most important. So let's talk about the skills. So we have Incinerate of Venting. We're hooking it up with a bunch of channeling stuff, arcane surge, elemental focus, concentrated effect. This is all just to make it hit harder. This is what I calculated to be the highest DPS combination. The channeling nodes here help you do. This one helps you take less damage. The arcane surge is giving us some mana regen and cast speed, things like that. And then over here to the Armageddon Brand. So we're using Armageddon Brand to level with, right? So when it comes to the end game, I didn't really have a clear idea of what Incinerating Venting's clear would be like. A lot of the places I've looked say Frostblink of Wintry Blast. But I hate that. I hate Frostblink and Wintry Blast. First of all, it's so mana hungry. I don't understand how these builds ever keep up with the mana consumption of Wintry Blast. On top of it, it just blasts you through maps, which is great. Except you're not killing like anything. You're you're like barely killing any magic mobs, and you're bouncing all over the place. You can't pay attention. I hate it. I hate it. So I went with Armageddon Brand. We're just taking the same Armageddon Brand we were leveling with. As you can see, this one's just like one I was leveling with at some point in the game. And I'm just throwing a couple of things on it. We don't even have quality on these. You can get quality on these. They're great. Obviously, we're going to get a free 10% quality on that. So you're just going to increase your damage here. Just using all stuff for hits. We just want it to hit. We don't want to ignite. We're not doing ignite scaling. We're doing all fire damage hits. So that's all we're doing here. Just an inspiration for some less mana, a cruelty for hits, elemental focus for hits, combustion for hits. Combustion could be switched out. I'm not 100% on it. Obviously, the minus res doesn't matter. The chance to ignite doesn't matter. And then obviously increase critical strikes because or if you're missing that crit that you need for 100%, if you're not, crit damage, etc., right? As we talked about, we're talking about we have 3 auras. They're going to be D-term, zealotry, and then mana infused staff. And that is going to be basically like a Tempest shield for us, except it's also going to give us chance to block. And then running an Enlightened in that setup, again, not necessary, just something you can throw in there as an extra, reduction so that you have more wiggle room, right? Assassin's Mark, this is again just more crit chance, more crit multi, We're just using this mainly on bosses just to do a little bit extra damage. And then as far as the protection, we're doing Molten Shell with cast when damage taken. We got a lot of armor. Makes sense, right? You could do Steel Skin, obviously, always an option. Um, and then Weep Slam with faster attacks is purely here just for movement speed. Honestly, probably could cut it from the build completely. Doesn't really work as good as Frostlink because when you Weep Slam, you do stop channeling, you do stop being stationary. Um, Frostblink, I just threw inspiration on it. Again, not 100% filled out on everything, right? We're missing, you know, what do we got? Three or one extra slot in the gloves. We have, you know, two slots if you were to remove Leap Slam and faster attacks, another one if you remove inspiration on Frostblink. We're kind of just like, this is really basic stuff, and this is just to have it, set up so it's as easy as possible. Ideally, you can throw in something better, but for now, this is what we're working with. And then let us move over to the items. So, items, we talked about all our gems. We didn't talk about the basic ones. Really, you're just grabbing stats and you're grabbing resistances and you're grabbing maybe some block chance for staves. That's all you're doing here. You could grab some increased fire damage, or crit multi, crit chance, whatever you need to fill in the build. These are just your free filler jewels here, right? Same thing goes for the Abyssal. Throw some extra energy shield, throw some stats, throw some resistances, etc., etc. Then, as far as the flasks go, I said before we're using a diamond just to make up that small amount of crit chance. We're using a quartz purely for the phasing. If you can get phasing somewhere else, you drop this for whatever. Movement seed from the quicksilver, armor from the granite. You could run the basalt, I think it is, for more armor. Honestly, 44,000 is kind of enough. And then we're running Rumi's concoction here. This is just for some block because we're just kind of on the edge of the block. I wanted to make sure we had extra room here, and you could switch this out for whatever. As far as I'm aware, Rumi's concoction is not something that is a chase item. It's super common. As far as I'm aware, it's super common. So this is just if you need the extra arm, you can use this as your granite flask, gives you the extra block chance, and you hit that little extra. It's all, that's all that we're doing. We're just working to fill the gaps, right? Um, Belt, Stygian Vice, again, don't need a Stygian Vice. You could use a regular belt. You're just going to lose the extra, reses and stats here. Um, these are all this gear is just basically gear I had in standard. Some of it I edited it a little bit just to make it more useful for the build, but this is just very basic stuff. It's not any end game gear. You got your channeling minus mana. You don't need that once you get the battery staff, but this is just to help before then. Um, you can either do non-channeling if you want for all your other stuff when you get this battery staff. Obviously, again, just very simple rings. I mean, high stat rings for sure, but like nothing crazy. For you consider without the channeling mod a 4 mod ring, right? It's you don't even have two of the other stats on here, right? Um, Again, the ashes, I think this is going to be pretty sick with the percent increased quality. And this build in particular, it scales stages based off quantity. So this should be another win. It's super easy to get now. You can actually farm your own with this build, probably. Um, it's really not that hard. You see them all the time. A couple of divine on the first day, typically. I really don't expect this to be too bad. Alternatively, if you just not like feeling the percent quality, or this is too hard for you to get, just get a +1 fire, +1 all, neck, throw, whatever, some more energy shield, strength, etc. onto it. That's fine. Again, boots just got. We're focusing on getting a lot of armor, getting a lot of energy shield, get your reses, get your stats. Again, armor, energy shield, reses, stats, armor, energy shield, reses, stats, right? It's all we're really doing on all of these. And obviously, disregard the uh, Eater and Exarch influences on these. I don't know. And then this is probably the weirdest one that I don't know how it's going to go. And this is the only thing that makes me a little hesitant about the build. So, first of all, this is a experimental base from Heist. Uh, it's not a desirable experimental base from Heist. I actually don't even know if anyone ever uses this, but it's super nice with this build because we have a good amount of energy shield regen. We energy shield regen on hit. I took this leech node over here, right? And the idea is that we just don't want to have to pay for that channel because every build I looked at with Incinerate of Venting, they would channel it and they would look really cool and they would look really good. And then as soon as they hit their max channeling stacks, boom, they drop it. And you know why they drop it? Because the mana regen needed to keep this going, even with like 4,000 mana some of these people had, is insane. So I thought this would be a really good fix. It should roll all the same mods as a regular staff. Um, it has the +1 all, the plus fire, the plus block that they're adding to all staves. You can roll all the other stuff. It also gives us extra energy shield, which is great. We want more energy shield because that's our only protection, right? With the chaos inoculation. Um, so yeah, this is like pretty solid. It doesn't feel bad at all. I've never burned my energy shield below the max. I can't do enough with the skill. Even at 24 stages running, it does not burn any of your energy shield away. So, this is a solid pickup. It might be kind of hard to get. Obviously, until then, you're leaning heavily into things like this siphon node, maybe even picking up some extra mana nodes, maybe come down here, get this mana regen. Where is it? Mana on kill, extra mana on kill. You could do that. But I plan to just blitz this thing as soon as possible. I have a couple of friends who like doing heist. Worst case scenario, if they don't feel like doing it, I can, farm up a couple of blueprints and go in there and get the experimental base. Or buy it. If it's cheap, just buy it. I mean, I don't think it's going to be expensive. I think it's going to be something that people take when they failed to get all the other experimental bases that they wanted to get. And it's going to be, at most a divine day 2, 3 of the week. That's based on what I've seen from history. Obviously, it's harder to track on Pee Wee Ninja than like a unique, but that's basically what I've seen is the base is going to be 1 or 2 divine. So, quick things I wanted to talk about. So, there's these two swaps, and these are just like content swaps. So, this is Voltaic Burst. This is not a channeled skill, but you can see it kind of works like a channeled skill where you're like casting this thing and then it charges up a shield and then it kind of discharges those shields. This is really good for just like if you want to be another mapping option, right? You can kind of run around just like shocking things. And then the other one is Flameblast of Celerity. And this is kind of like a point and click, sets off like a little explosion. This is a channeling skill. This is good for like blight. Um, and I will say that both of these I was suggested um, by Ignatius, one of the guides that I watched when I was looking about building this. And both of these were in his, and I kind of liked them. They're very useful, for different kind of content. So I wanted to include those in here as well. So if you ever want to, map with Voltaic Burst, that's an option. You can map with Flameblast of Celerity. It's actually not too bad. You're gonna kill everything up in front of you, and then alternatively, you have your Armageddon brand, or as I said, your Wintry Blast. But I am not a fan of Wintry Blast. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight those real quick, and here's some examples of me going through and using them.
Disintegration. Cleansing. Annihilation. Incineration. Disintegration. Cleansing. The fires of 1,000 suns. Incineration. Annihilation. Disintegration. Cleansing. Annihilation. Incineration. Disintegration. Cleansing. Annihilation.
Until the others arrive to challenge me for the realm.
So yeah, that's the guide. I appreciate your time. I know it was a long one, but I wanted to make sure that I covered everything and tried to be as helpful as I could. Appreciate if you give me a like or subscribe, and definitely look out for the update in a week or two after the week start, which will be now in well, about a day and a half. So, thanks, guys. Hope you have a good week start. Bye.